What's happening, Bengals fans? Inside the Jungle, coming at you live here at CincyJungle.com. We've got an action-packed show for you this week. Our main man, Mickey Menser, went behind enemy lines, literally. We'll discuss that. But, hey, the Bengals are 2-0. An impressive 2-0 to start the year. And they're getting a lot of love from around the league, from around the national media, all that and much more. And we'll also look ahead to this weekend's matchup against the Tennessee Titans. Hey, everybody, I'm Nick Struble, hanging out once again with my co-hosts. And I'll start with you, Mickey Menser. How are you, man? You're a little fired up tonight with good reason?
I am fired up, and I'm not going to bring all that in here, but I'm mostly fired up, Nick, because the Bengals are 2-0 with two extremely quality wins.
You said it. Quality is exactly right. You're also fired up, though, Mickey, because we welcome back the one and only Anthony Cosenza over on the left coast, right?
Yes, we missed that guy.
Yeah, I was saying before the show, gosh, I missed a week, and it's, after week one, that big win, and I feel like I missed a month on the podcast, so it's good to be back, and I think this is going to be an exciting show, Nick. I've been listening to the post-game shows you've been doing. You've been doing an awesome job, and there's a lot of good feedback and callers there, so hopefully we ride that momentum into this show, and I'm pretty fired up. Good start to the season for our boys.
Yeah, 2-0, and it was an impressive 2-0. The first week, obviously, it wasn't pretty against the Baltimore Ravens. It never is when you play an AFC North opponent. But to see them dominate the Falcons from the get-go on Sunday was impressive, considering what the Falcons did a week before. Not to pat myself on the back, but my bold prediction did come true, guys. I said the Bengals would hold the Falcons to 10 points or less. So I'm a little golf clap.
Very nice.
I forgot that was your prediction.
That was my bold prediction, and it was true. It was awesome. Very awesome. But I want to start the show off before we get to our best and worst of Sunday. After I posted last week's episode, we found out, Mickey found out that he was going to be doing something pretty remarkable at Paul Brown Stadium on Sunday. Mickey, why don't you fill folks in on what exactly you did? We kind of teased it on Twitter and on Facebook with some screenshots, but for those of you who listen to the podcast and might not know what Mickey looks like, you probably didn't see him on TV, but he was on TV quite a bit on Sunday.
Yeah, the best part was I posted one of the pictures, or my wife actually posted a picture of me that she caught on a screen grab, and someone said, best looking beard on the sideline. So if you didn't notice the beard, then you haven't seen me on the podcast. But yeah, Nick, you're right. I had the opportunity to be on the field, on the Falcons sideline for the entire game. I don't know what the official job is. I was a runner for the video team. So as the plays are printed, which is impressive in its own right. Literally, as soon as an offensive play would be run, the printout was a couple seconds behind that. Like the video guys upstairs getting they get 4 shots of every play, put it in a binder. You put it in the binder a certain way, and then when the offense comes off the field, you were assigned a position group. You find that coach, you hand them that series with the first play open, and they go to town with it. Part of the reason I got so much screen time, Nick, was I was assigned to the secondary, the cornerbacks coach, Tim Lewis, who super nice guy. He would have they told me before he has the runners hold the book open, so I had to stand there as he's flipping through plays. Which at first I was like, man, that's gonna suck. It was incredible. I got to see every note he took on the play about formations. He would call guys over like Alfred and be like, you got to press on this, or you're too far off on this, or this guy's got to do this. And this is a family show. There was, their language was a little more intense than I'm using there, but it was awesome. I mean, and to see the guy, we hear about films and guys that played football for a while that they did some film room, but these guys' knowledge was insane. The coach could look at a player and say, hey, that second play in the red zone. And Desmond Trufant would be like, yeah, I pressed my guy, and then I rolled off onto this guy. Like, they know everything. And he's like, should I have hooked that, or should I have, cheated the inside? That was one of the coolest things to see. And then, I didn't talk to Matt Ryan. I stood next to him quite a bit. A bunch of the pictures that we posted, I was next to him. But TJ Yates, actually, him and I chatted a bunch. Super nice dude. Like, probably the most outside of Andy Dalton, because I've had conversations with him where he just seemed like a regular dude asking me like, hey, what's going on? T.J. Yates was like that during the game. I mean, he's pretty sure he wasn't getting in, so he wasn't too excited about that. But he was just a solid dude. But I got to see the whole game from the sideline on the first. I don't know if it was the first or second. Shoot, I don't remember if it's right now if it's a punt or kickoff. Devin Hester takes one into the Falcons sideline, and I actually said, "Heads up, coach," because I thought he was going to barrel into us on the sideline, and the cornerback coach took a step towards me. It was pretty cool. I mean, there's nothing more I could ask for. I'm glad I got to experience it. I wrote it up. It was a well-received article. For those that are asking, we kind of got our hands smacked by the NFL, but I'm trying to get it back up. So I don't know if you send me your email address, I can send you the text of the article. It's a pretty good read.
Yeah, it actually, when you told me that you were going to be doing this and that you were going to be on the Falcon sideline, I remember saying to you specifically, "Wow, you're going to be on camera quite a bit," because that's the way the cameras face during the game. So there was going to be a lot of opportunities for you to get some face time. And so I remember watching. I turned the game on just as the anthem was coming on because they were showing all the national anthems, and sure enough, they had you on screen there. And then I watched some of the cut-ups from DirecTV a little later, and I saw the Devin Hester return, and you were on camera for that, and it was pretty cool. And just to be able to point out, hey, there he is, like each time that you were on the screen was pretty awesome. And I'm sure you had a lot of family and friends that they sent you their screen grabs and whatnot.
For sure. And I noticed Chris, I think he's asking me in the chat room, are they not using the iPad things? They don't. Microsoft Surface, I think, spent a ton of money to become the official tablet, and they have a ton of those tablets, but most of the people don't use them, and the biggest reason is the glare. Like for Sunny games, they have trouble with them, and a lot of them are old school. I mean, think about these coaches; they're all older. They like the printouts, so. I think the Surface or iPads or whatever tablets the wave of the future because they're definitely there, but a lot of them weren't using it.
I would think that the glare. I mean, I wouldn't have never thought about that, but that probably is a huge factor in that. I mean, that's Microsoft's paying a lot of money to get that, and you see it splattered all over the sideline, the Surface brand and whatnot. So I was surprised to hear that you were still actually dealing with the paper and the photos.
Yeah, the story that I'll give you a little extra behind the scenes, Nick. The story that I didn't tell, we kind of got in trouble during the game because at halftime we were starving. Right, we had a pregame press meal, but I was hungry, so I was like, let's roll back up to the press box. I know they're gonna have halftime food, but halftime is only 12 minutes, and that goes fast. And we're dealing with the Ohio University marching band, and we get up. I'm wolfing down this hot dog up in the press box, and they say. And Tate standing at the 5 receiving the kickoff. I was like, oh, crap. Like, we have to get to the field. So we take the steps, roll down 4 flights of steps to Paul Brown, go tearing through under the tunnels, end up in the opposite sideline corner of where we're supposed to be, and just dead sprint it. Like, you can see it if you watch after the half as, like, they're showing stats after the kickoff. You see 2 guys in white shirts just sprinting along the sideline. One of the NFL film guys yelled at us because we ran in the shop, but I mean, we were like, crap. And we got back, and they're like, you guys can't go away. We're like, no, sorry, we were stuck. It's a bad deal. It was pretty funny.
So would you do it again if given the opportunity?
I probably won't get the opportunity now, but I think I would. I think I would do it again, but I would want to be selective of the team, right? Now that I know what to expect, I don't know. You watch most of the game on the Jumbotron. Like, you see some of it. I got to see Brandon Tate's catch from Sanu because that was right, on that sideline, and I was pretty close to that. But there's a whole wall of players in front of you, and so you were watching most of the game on the Jumbotron. I think I would rather be, great seats for the beer than doing that. But like I said, it was a great experience. I got to do it.
Is Matt Ryan like a rah-rah kind of guy? What's his demeanor on the sideline? Because,
None.
For all the really.
None. He didn't say anything. He never really got down. When he threw a pick, I don't know if it was a second or third pick, he keeps his face, the same, walks over. But when he grabbed his hat, like the quarterback set his hat in the same spot every time, and like no one messed with it. No one messes with the quarterback. He grabbed it, and he just crumpled it in his hand. So I was like, there it is. Like, I'm going to write about that because that was pretty cool. Like, his face looked fine, but you could tell he was pissed. He's not a rah-rah guy. Desmond Trufant, and I think his name's Nate Stupar, who's a second-year player. He's kind of bounced around the league, special teams guy. They were the ones rallying the sidelines, like running up and down, like, we're still in this, we're still in this. My favorite thing of the day, I think it was Brandon Alford. He was talking earlier about how the Bengals can't pass on him, and he's the guy that got burnt on the Sanu touchdown, which I almost clapped on that one. Like, I took my hands and I was like, oh, and then I stopped and just kind of rubbed them together, like, all right, I can't be clapping over here. But it was to hear the crap that even Tim Lewis, the secondary coach, and the secondary were talking about the Bengals passing game, and then for them to get burnt was awesome. And don't let anyone fool you. When I heard AJ was out before anyone, right? Like, because the coaches obviously know everything. Those guys were ecstatic. Like, they were so happy. Like, AJ's gone. It trickled through the whole sideline. Like, everyone was talking about it.
Interesting. And yet they were still able to be thrown against, which was, one of the highlights of the day as well. I mean, that's pretty awesome. And so I'm glad you got to experience that. I know you're a season ticket holder and you get to go quite a bit down to Paul Brown Stadium, but to be on the field during the game in the bench. Even if you do manage to somehow get access to the sideline, you're never inside the bench like that. So that in itself is pretty remarkable and something you'll never forget. That's awesome. Kudos, man.
My last little story about it. One of my buddies that we just talk smack on Twitter. He got front row seats for that game, and so right before the game, he tweeted me or he texted me and said, "I got front row seats. I got you beat this week," which. When he sent it, I thought he knew, right? And he didn't. And so I sent him back. I was like, I got you beat, brother. And I went over and said hi to him, shook his hand. I'm on the field today. I have all access.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
To see his facial reaction would have been priceless. That's
pretty cool.
Well, awesome. Well, hopefully we'll be able to get the article back up on the site. If not, if you're interested and you want to and read the text that Mickey wrote, email me at insidethejungle@spnt.tv and we'll make it happen so that you can read his firsthand account of witnessing the game from the Falcons sideline. Anthony, your vantage point, did you have as good of a view as Mickey did on Sunday? I'm guessing no.
I probably did not. No. I didn't want to interrupt Mickey because I was pretty interested in hearing all of the stories and all of the feedback he wanted to bring to the show, and it's a shame what happened to that post on the website because that was a very interesting read. So hopefully we can get that up and running. But I did not have quite the vantage point as Mickey, but I enjoyed the game all the same. So that's a pretty unique opportunity. I'm stoked he was able to do that.
Well, we want to hear from you, Bengals fans. 404-946-3397, or give us a call on the Skype line. We want to hear from you as far as your best and worst of Sunday. I'll start with you, AC, since you did get to watch the game and we're welcoming you back this week. What's your best and worst from Sunday's game against the Falcons?
Oh, boy. I guess I would have to say the best. There's a lot of good things that I like. What I saw on Sunday, the best would probably have to be the combination of Gio Bernard and Jeremy Hill. We were promised that we would see more of Jeremy Hill, and he did not disappoint at all. He was very effective on the ground, almost 5 yards a carry, had a couple of nice catches. Gio was sharp early and then had some nice catches as the game went on. I think he sort of maybe wore down a little bit towards the later part of the game. So, I liked the running back duo. Also liked Sanu stepping up in the face of injuries. I guess it's kind of cliche to say what my worst is, but it's just the pileup of injuries. It's getting pretty bad. Luckily, this team showed how deep they were to be able to overcome that and still win by 14 points. But the injuries are just getting pretty ridiculous. Luckily, none of them seem to be season enders, with the exception of Alex Smith. So they're probably going to be able to get past some of those, especially when mid-season hits. But the injuries are pretty bad.
Before we get to your best and worst, Mickey, let's go to the jungle line. Area code 859. Hi, who's this?
Hey, it's John from Kentucky. Hoo-day, man.
Hey, John, how are you, man?
Pretty good. I have to admit, I was not impressed with Hugh Jackson when they first promoted him to offensive coordinator. But I've got to be man enough to just admit I was wrong. He seems to be doing quite well. And I just get the feel that this team is finally, away from Mike Brown somewhat, and that they're looking more like, a truly professional team. You guys were talking about injuries and whatnot. This team's very deep. I honestly think we could beat Tennessee with maybe our second-string players. That might even include Andy Dalton. I mean, I'm not saying for sure, but, who really knows? So the team is looking good. I'm really looking forward to the New England game. I think that's the test. If they go into New England in prime time and they win convincingly, I might actually go to a playoff game this year if it's in Cincinnati, even though I said I would never go back there again.
First of all, John, this Mickey, when they go to the playoffs, you can sit with me.
Yes, sir.
You hear? Hey,
Can you hear me, John?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
John, when you go to the playoffs this year, you can sit with me. But here's the thing. Here's one way I'm going to disagree with you. I don't care if the Bengals go into New England and win a game in overtime with a field goal. Winning in New England in prime time should be good enough. Like, I don't mean to pick on you, but I see it all the time. People talk about this convincingly stuff. Convincingly doesn't. There's not a stat in the stat sheet for that. A win is a win. A loss is a loss. I don't believe in moral victories in a loss, and I think wins count just as good whether you blow someone out. The Bengals just roughed up the Falcons with their top 3 receiving threats not even in the game. This is a bandwagon you should be on, and John, I'll buy your first beer even at the playoff game.
Man, Mickey, hey, I appreciate that. Well, yeah, the Bengals are softening me up. They really are. You already know my attitude, what it was there for quite a while after that game last year. But, they look better. They look better coached, and it's just so ironic now that Mike Brown has more or less stepped aside, all these great things are happening. So, and it's just amazing, and Gunther. I thought, man, Gunther, he's untested and Zimmer's gone. Man, Gunther looks maybe even better than Zimmer with these blitzes he's throwing. So, the Bengals, are they the best team in the NFL right now? I'll just come out and say it.
Yes.
They're not. They're playing the best right now. That's for sure.
They're up there.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Definitely. Well, hey, look, I won't top the phone lines too long, but yeah, hey, Mickey, I'll definitely make a note of that going to the playoffs this year. And sure, but by the same token, look, a primetime game, that's as close to, in New England, a primetime game in New England, that's as close as to maybe a playoff game that you're going to have in the regular season. So if the Bengals do go in there and, impress people, well, why not think, hey, they should at least win a playoff game this year.
We've been saying that for years, man. Right, John?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll let somebody else talk now, man. It's great talking to y'all again, and all I can say is hooray.
All right, hooray, John. Safe travels this week, all right, bub?
Okay.
That's John from Kentucky starting us off tonight on the Jungle Line. If you want to get in touch, 404-946-3397 is the number to call. I know we've had a few people try to get in touch with us via Skype. It's always good to hear from our boy Fatal Content down in South Beach. I know he's been trying to ring in. Of course, now he's not answering his Skype. Way to go, Fatal. I thought it'd be a smooth transition there. But before we get to Fatal, Mickey, give us your best and worst of the weekend.
It's tough, right, Nick? I still haven't got to analyze the game like you would. When you say I had better seats than Anthony, I bet Anthony saw more of the game than I did. My best is the defense. That was another thing that even though Nugent was missing field goals, you could tell the Falcons knew they were being outplayed. Like, no one came out and said it, but they were getting frustrated and talking about missing tackles and talking about the offense not being able to move the ball. It was pretty awesome. Like, they were defeated at halftime, even though the game was well within reach. Worst has to be Nugent. Like, I've watched him, even in college, and he was automatic, and that was just weird. I'll give him a pass for the one at the end of the first half. 55 yards, pretty tough. I don't think it was windy, but the rest, the other misses, man, they were lucky that didn't end up biting them. But look at what the blowout would have been, had that happened. So that's my best and worst, Nick.
We've got Fatal back on the jungle line. Fatal, are you with us?
I'm with you guys, man. What's going on, gentlemen?
Hey, what's up, Fatal? What's your best and worst of Sunday?
Best and worst. Best, oh man, Giovanni Bernard and Jeremy Hill, man. I mean, that's definitely a 1-2 combo right there. The work of the O-line was definitely one of the best. I mean, they're still untouched. Dalton hasn't even been hit in 2 games, so I mean that's insane. And the worst, why the hell didn't we beat them 31-3, man? That's the worst. But listen, guys. I mean, I'm really just not surprised. These guys are beyond absurd, man. The fact that they're doing what they're doing and we're in the discussion, it still needs to be tempered down. It's only week 2 or week 3, but the fact that they're in a discussion for one of the best teams in the AFC and they're not even fully retooled, they don't even have everybody at their disposal that they will have come at least the middle of the year. This is going to be some good times for our Bengals, guys.
Well, not just the AFC, Fatal. You could make an argument that they're the best team in the NFL. I mean, Seattle, they lost this weekend. They got knocked off their perch. Denver hasn't looked spectacular, but they're 2-0. But they also have Peyton Manning at quarterback, so you give them the edge there. Outside of those 2 teams, is there anybody else that I'm missing that right now you could make the case that is ahead of the Bengals?
No, not that I can think of. No.
I mean, I just want to jump on top of that. What's insane is, Denver, sure, they're 2-0, and like I just said, wins are wins. But have they really, impressed anyone like they did before? And then Seattle, they're 2 different teams at home and on the road, and I think they're by far the best team in the NFL at home. But on the road, obviously, they can be whooped. The Bengals beat a Baltimore team that had question marks, and then the next week they just disrobe a Steelers team. So both Bengals wins are quality. I don't think anyone in the NFL has as quality of 2 wins as they do.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. I've seen a lot of debates from, talking about the 2-0 teams right now and who's for real, who's not, who's a contender, who's a pretender. And they debate the same 2 or 3 teams, and the Bengals aren't even in that discussion because I think everybody knows that this team is for real at this point. Obviously, those injuries have to kind of settle themselves, and they get some of those guys back. But I think people look at this team, and it's not even a discussion if they're a contender or a pretender. They are for real, and they are set to do some good things this year.
I was so pissed off the other day. One of the perks of working third shift is you have the luxury of watching ESPN SportsCenter all day the following Monday. And one of the SportsCenter anchors, one of the segments was talking about the surprise 2-0 teams. And the Bengals were lumped into that discussion with the Buffalo Bills. So all of a sudden now it's a surprise that the Bengals are 2-0. Do people forget that this team are the AFC North champions? That is what pissed me off the other day when I was watching on SportsCenter. It's still, they don't get the love that they deserve, even at 2-0, Fatal.
No, they definitely don't, and they won't. I mean, I'll be fair, man. I'll try to be as objective as I can. We've seen this story from the Bengals. We've seen them, be great in the regular season, and we've seen them just lay an egg in the playoffs. So I can understand where that sentiment comes for the Bengals, where I think people just harp on it a little too much, and I think don't put it behind us. But until we prove it in the playoffs, that's what they're going to keep saying. And you know what? I think this year is the year. So I don't really harp on that too much because we have a lot to prove, and a lot of the players do. And I think that's why they're playing the way they're playing. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I have never seen in a game 12 pass defense. I mean, that was ridiculous the way the cornerbacks played. And on a week where Pac-Man or Adam Jones came out and said that we weren't afraid of them and we can handle their receivers, that was. I mean, they backed it up. Those guys played amazingly. I was wondering what you guys thought on that.
Go ahead, Mickey. You're our resident corner.
I think every corner played well. The biggest thing is the tackling, right? The Bengals aren't missing tackles, and that was another thing that was going through the Falcons sideline, is that there was way too much contact, way too many yards after first contact. And the Bengals were just rapping. As soon as someone would catch a ball, they were getting popped, and sometimes they knocked the ball loose. Beyond that, man, Nick, I feel like I say it every episode, our corners look awesome when the defensive line gets pressure. And so Matt Ryan was in duress, and the corners only had to cover for, a short time, and everyone looked good. I don't know. It's tough not to get excited about this team, Nick. They're doing it, and we wondered about depth, and our depth's getting tested, and they're definitely passing.
Yeah, and one of the guy who's known as kind of the finesse corner of the team, Terrence Newman, he was one of the most physical guys on the field last week. He had 3 passes defense. A couple of those, I think, were knocked loose as he hit the receiver. He led the team in tackles, and Mickey hit the nail right on the head. I mean, this team and this defensive unit made a concerted effort to limit the yards after catch and have those explosive Falcons wide receivers really bottle them up, and that was part of the game plan, and they succeeded. It really worked.
Hey, appreciate the call, Fatal. We'll talk to you Sunday after the game, all right, bub?
All right, guys. You guys take it easy, man. Good talking to you guys as always, man.
Thank you, Fatal. Appreciate it. That's Fatal on the Jungle Line giving us a ring here on Inside the Jungle. Again, if you want to get in touch and give us your best and worst of the weekend, 404-946-3397. The phone has been ringing off the hook. We will do our best to get your calls. So if we don't answer right away, keep trying. We'll definitely get you on the program. If I have to give a best and worst of the weekend, my best, I would say my best is probably the offensive line play on Sunday. They ran the ball at will against the Falcons, which we thought they'd be able to do. But at the same time, when you consider the injuries that occurred on that offensive line, you have to think at some point there's going to be some miscommunication. There's going to be some missed blocks. There's going to be missed assignments. And at the end of the day, Andy Dalton still wasn't touched. And he was able to throw the ball very effectively and get the ball to his playmakers, even though no A.J. Green and no Marvin Jones or Tyler Eifert. Mohamed Sanu stepped up. Bernard stepped up with a lot of yards through the air. So for me, my best is the offensive line. My worst has got to be Mike Nugent. And it's not just the missed field goals, Mickey. It was the short kickoffs. And anytime you put the ball in Devin Hester's hands, you're asking for trouble. And luckily, the special teams were able to make plays on Hester. It was still a little nerve-wracking to see those short kickoffs. And even giving Hester the chance to make a play was very scary.
Yeah, I agree. And it was a rough day for Nugent.
Hopefully he gets that corrected, though, and has a better – and even Coach Lewis said that during his press conference. He knows those are just one of those random days Mike has, and he's all the confidence in the world that he'll be able to back it up this week with a fine performance. But hopefully they don't have to call on him too much, and they're actually scoring 6 in the red zone instead of settling for field goals. Let's go to the Jungle Line. Area code 606. Hi, who's this?
Hey, guys. It's Chris from Kentucky.
Hey, Chris from Kentucky. What's on your mind tonight?
Hey, not much, guys. I was going to give you my best and the worst of the week. I was going to take Nugent for worst, but you guys piled on that already, so I won't pile on him too hard. I think he gets it back this week. But really worried if we should hold out Burfitt a little bit longer. Can't really stand to lose him for a long period of time for concussions, and he looked like he got rung up a couple times. And I know the competitor he is. He just wants to stay in the game. But if he goes down for a little bit, that definitely hurts the defense. So kind of worried about him a little bit. And then Best, I talked about it last week when I called in, but Andy Dalton gets the pressure, guys. I mean, he's looking great. No turnovers, just looking poised in the pocket, hanging in there, throwing dimes to the receivers, even with A.J. out. So that was definitely positive.
Chris, I'm glad you brought that up because one of the biggest criticisms of Andy Dalton in his career has been his play when facing the blitz. And this year, he's done a great job of getting rid of the ball quickly into the right spots against the blitz. And that's something I think Hugh Jackson's really stressed with him. You could see the improvement already.
Oh, for sure. you can't overstate how important it is in football to protect the ball. And when in previous years, granted, I mean, you can't argue the numbers. He was pretty awful. But just looking at him this year, he's way more poised, way more mature in the pocket, and just waiting for his receivers to run those routes and get the ball to him in the perfect spot. So I'm beyond happy with that. Just catching up on podcasts today. I know you guys already talked about some of the national pundits talking the Bengals up. I'm just pumped to hear us finally lumped in with those elite teams and people taking us serious. I know in the past we've not always deserved it or anything. And like Fatal said, it's early in the season, but I'm loving how the team's looking, and I'll let you guys get some other people, but I'm pumped for the season.
Hey, we're all pumped too, Chris. Appreciate the call, all right, bud?
Who they got?
That's Chris on the Jungle Line giving us a ring. The national media is slowly turning, they're starting to drink the Kool-Aid. I think we all, as Bengal fans, are drinking the Kool-Aid, but I think it's really cool to see where this team's headed. And, just take it one game at a time. This week they got the Titans, which we'll be talking about here in just a minute. Let's go to the Jungle Line again, area code 270. Hi, who's this?
This is Rob from Russell Springs, Kentucky. I actually grew up out there in Cincinnati area, but yeah, I'm really excited about this team this year. The only thing is, obviously, the worst got to be the injuries. It's getting a little nerve-wracking.
Yep. What about your best?
The best would have to be Dalton all the way around. I mean, look at what he's doing with nobody. I mean, he has nobody out there that he's used to throwing the ball to. And, people don't realize how big of a deal Eifert was. I'm pretty sure the game plan was going to be, he was going to be predicated around him and A.J. Green mostly in the passing game, and he's gone now. But, I mean, it's like nothing's phasing him. He's doing a real good job. I mean, everywhere. He's throwing the ball away when he needs to. He's checking it down when he needs to. Just real impressed with him this year so far.
How much credit, though, Rob, do you give Hugh Jackson for that compared to Jay Gruden?
A lot. I mean, you think about it, Jay Gruden was asking him to do all the things that you shouldn't ask Andy Dalton to do, and the stats showed it. Throwing them long passes all the way to the far sidelines and, taking too many of the big shots downfield. And now you got Hugh, who's using the run game and a little check downs, bringing everybody up close, and then he takes, those 3 or 4 big shots down the field whenever the team ain't really, the other defense ain't really ready for it. He's definitely the best offensive play caller in the league. I just think he is. He's going to show it this year, and I really hope he sticks around at least for another year or two, allow us to go for a Super Bowl run.
Well, I agree with you 100%, Rob. Appreciate the call, all right, bud?
All right, thank you.
No problem. That's Rob on the Jungle Line. I love the way that Andy Dalton has played so far this year, guys, and we didn't see it much in the game against Baltimore, but we saw it in the game against Atlanta, and I think a lot of credit has to go towards running the football. A year ago, this team was awful at running the football, 28th in the NFL, and when you can't run the ball, teams are going to be able to exploit your weaknesses through the passing game. But now that there's some balance on the offense, Anthony, this team can actually, do some things.
Yeah, totally. And actually the running game, at least from a yards per carry standpoint, wasn't all that impressive in week 1, but they ran it well when they needed to. Obviously, last week, Gio, I think, had only about 3.3 or 3.4 yards per carry, but Hill had close to 5, as I mentioned earlier, so that was pretty impressive. Here's the thing, though, about the passing game and what we've seen from Andy Dalton this year. A lot of people say, it's real careful, it's nothing real exciting, and, he's just kind of playing caretaker with the football. Well, the guy's averaging about 275 yards passing per game in the first 2 games. It's not like it's 170 yards a game and Chad Pennington type of plays. He's actually taking shots downfield. They are using some medium to deeper routes, and they are also utilizing short routes that will get them yards after the catch. So it's not a super vanilla bland offense. Andy Dalton is making plays, and he's racking up some decent stats while not turning the ball over. So I think that's to be commended too.
Yeah, I think I don't know who said, it might have been UAC said it earlier in when we were talking. The Bengals are the only team in the NFL with 4 passes of 40+ yards completion.
Yeah, something. I didn't say that. I think it was Josh Kirkendall, but yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and who cares if they're short passes? You know what I mean? Dave Choate from the Falcoholic, he answered the questions last week before the game, and he said one of his biggest concerns was short passes to Giovanni Bernard because that's the kind of things that will eat the Falcons up. And where Giovanni Bernard might not have had the yards per carry, he took some passes a long way, and it was awesome.
That guy is fun to watch, that's for sure. And a lot of people on Monday night got to witness Darren Sproles in action, and I'm not comparing Giovanni Bernard in any way to Darren Sproles yet, but you could see what the Bengals saw in Bernard. It's a very similar to what Darren Sproles offers in Philadelphia and what he's done throughout his career in the NFL. Let's hope that Bernard becomes the player that Darren Sproles is right now, and you see it in the screen game. I think if you look at his numbers, he had 27 carries over the weekend, which there were a lot of folks in the NFL circles who questioned whether or not Bernard could be that guy to get you 25 to 30 carries a game. And even I think I've seen Marvin Lewis question it, saying, I don't think he's that kind of back. But they really believe, and it also helps when you have a guy like Jeremy Hill who can come in and give him a rest. And so I just liked seeing the team run the ball down the throats of the Falcons, and just impose their will. And when you can do that, you really demoralize the team, and it showed on Sunday. Before we look ahead to the Titans, let's go back to the jungle line, though. Area code 828. Hi, who's this?
Hey, guys. It's Kurt down here in Nashville, North Carolina.
Hey, Kurt. What's up, man? Give us your best and worst of the weekend.
Best and worst of the weekend. Best has got to be the Mohamed Sanu throw. I was looking back at all the stats, and he is 100%. Ever since he's been on the roster, he has thrown one bomb every game, or one game every year. He's completed all of them. So he's the best passer we have on the offense right now.
3 for 3 on his career. Yeah, you're right.
Worst. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna have to go with everybody with the injuries, which is kind of why I was calling. And I had this really weird question, and I'm sure Mickey is going to go ahead and disagree with me right away, which was, you look at the New England game in Week 5, and you look at the Tennessee Titan games Week 3, and you've got these injuries to our big guys like A.J. Green and Vontaze Burfict. Do you risk sitting them even if they're ready to go, or you feel like they're ready to go? Do you risk sitting them for the Tennessee game because you feel like they're not as hard as a team in order to give them 2 full weeks off so they're ready for New England, or do you play them anyways?
Go ahead, man.
Kurt, I definitely understand what you're saying, and from like the safe fan perspective, I agree with you. But I don't know, other than the end of the season, any time an NFL player's ever sat just to, stay healthy. Burfict, you think Burfict's the type of player that's like, I'm cleared to go, but I'm gonna take one more week just to, make sure. No, dude's gonna be out there making tackles. AJ Green the same way. I mean, these guys are gamers. That's why they're at where they're at. If they're cleared, they're playing, and I mean, you'd have to freaking bench them to keep them off. And I don't know that every win counts. And say you sat Green and Burfict, and you somehow dropped one of the Titans, and then you end the season, you needed that win. You got to, you take the win when you can get it, and I can't see any situation other than the last game of the season where you're getting ready for the playoffs where you'd sit a guy that's healthy.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Mickey. The only caveat I have with that is just because Burfict is dealing with that concussion head injury issue. If it was another issue that was kind of lingering, maybe a hamstring or something like that, I'd maybe say, tough it out and throw him out there. The concussion thing is just tricky. It's also a thing that can get a team in trouble if you throw a guy out there that maybe isn't fully ready. But I agree with you. This fans are sitting here saying, especially on Cincy Jungle, hey, rest these guys. This is basically a bye week anyways with the Titans. That's not the case. There are no gimmies in this league. These are professional athletes, And, the Bengals could be riding pretty high from their last 2 wins and then, maybe overlooking the Titans and looking at the Patriots a couple weeks down the road. And, this could set up for a trap game. We don't know. But I'm in agreement with you, just with the caveat about the Burfict head injury issue.
Anthony took the words right out of my mouth, Kurt, and that nobody thought the Browns would beat the Saints. Nobody thought that the Ravens were going to beat Pittsburgh a week ago. And so you got to look at this game as you play to win, and you can't rest guys. If guys are available to play, you play them. That's just my take. So I guess I agree with Anthony. You cannot overlook Tennessee. They went out and they beat Kansas City pretty handily in the first week, and then laid an egg against the Cowboys. Nobody thought the Cowboys would beat Tennessee after the way the Cowboys played. So, I mean, it's the NFL for a reason, right, Kurt? You got to play the guys that are there.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, you look at our star defensive player, Vontaze Burfict. He had concussion the first game, and now he's possibly had a second concussion in the second game. I mean, I don't think anyone's questioning the fact that Burfict wants to be out there tackling guys, and you can see it every single time he comes off the field. Like, he's fighting the trainers. He's like, you got to put me back in there, despite on how he's feeling. But, at some point, someone's got to come in there and say, hey, Burfict, you're going to take this week off, and then you're going to get the bye, and then you'll be ready for New England. Just because, I mean, if something else were to happen, like in a third game straight, we would hate to lose a star defensive guy for any more than we absolutely have to, just because he really wants to be out there, or we're just not sure if he's ready yet.
My guess is, and Mickey, you'll probably agree with this, when it comes to Burfict, is my guess is the training staff may be a little more reluctant to clear him rather than making it a coach's decision. This may come down to the doctors and the concussion protocol.
Maybe, but I don't know that they even. Everyone's job is so siloed that I don't even know that they take that into consideration. I think the fact that it happened, had a game, it happened. It might lengthen the recovery, but I don't think anyone's gonna think about, oh well, we could probably play a little less. I don't think that comes into it. But that's just me. Maybe it does.
I mean, even if it's possible, like, I mean, just the thought of, like, hey, if this happens again, not only are we missing him for New England, but we're missing him for 4 or 5 games because, for whatever reason, because now he's got another hit and it's even worse.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, Kurt. It's an interesting debate for sure, but I think if he's cleared to play, the doctors think that he's okay, and I guess you just kind of, it's the name of the game. Injuries are going to happen. It's a physical game. Concussions are going to happen in this league, and I guess that's the risk you take. But if he's cleared, it's going to take a lot of effort by the training staff and Marvin Lewis to keep him off the field if they don't want him out there. He's going to play.
No one's going to stop him from getting on that field if they try. So, anyways, thanks. Have a good evening, guys. Good day. Have a good one.
That's Kurt on the Jungle Line. Appreciate the call, Kurt. If you want to get in touch, 404-946-3397 is the number to call. I wanted to discuss, and we're kind of running out of time here because of we're getting a lot of great calls, so I really appreciate that. But I wanted to discuss the lack of ticket sales for this week regarding this home game against the Tennessee Titans. I guess we could touch on it very briefly. Mickey, you're a season ticket holder. What do you make of this ordeal? And I've made some comments today on the Cincy Jungle site about how much it costs to go to a game, and I cannot sit here and blame fans for not buying tickets.
Here's my thoughts, Nick. I do still officially have season tickets in my name. Like I said, I split them with someone. I'm going to the game not actually with my tickets. Like, my tickets are already spoken for, but the guy in the chat room, Mike Woodstock, and I are going to the game. It is expensive to go to an NFL game. I get that, and if that's your excuse, like, hey man, I can't afford it. That's my thing. Totally get it. The part that gets me is when people talk about, I'm not giving Mike Brown a cent, or that kind of crap. I feel like people use that when they can't afford it. Like, they feel better using an excuse like that. But I don't get it. I don't. There's enough fans in Cincinnati that I don't understand it. And Anthony was a part of this earlier. Man, I don't know if I should say this. I feel like part of
Well,
what I'm
now
going?
I'm kind of intrigued, Mickey.
I feel like part of it is a ploy to get fans to buy tickets. It seems like we're always under this gun, and it's interesting. The tickets are sold through Ticketmaster, and you can go on and you can pick your seats. And when you look at the available seats, it's not as many as it makes it sound when they release those messages that it might be a blackout. And you notice how it always ends up like down to the wire. Then like, oh yes, we made it. The ticket guys have a job, and their job is to sell tickets. Is every seat sold out? No. I think we're going to be on TV because the way that it looks on Ticketmaster, there's a lot of seats sold. So their push for selling tickets makes Bengals fans look bad in the media, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and I agree with that. The one kind of case where I do find it a little interesting is that playoff game last year at home. Is their first home playoff game, I guess, gosh, since 2009. And granted, the Bengals under Marvin Lewis, though they've made the playoffs a lot, they haven't had a great history. Maybe that plays into it. Maybe people are real sour still on Mike Brown. Maybe people the way high-definition television and the experience at home plays into it. The expense of tickets play into it. I mean, there are so many factors. People could even sit here and use the excuse of what's going on with all these other players in the NFL and the abuse issues that are going on and saying, well, I'm boycotting going to games or whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of excuses that people use. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a post I'm putting up on the site this week. I had a fan ask me this question on Twitter. It is a shame that this seems to happen with this team more often than it doesn't. In terms of selling out a home game, I wish it wasn't the case, especially when they're a good team. You hate to see that, but even the popularity of the Tennessee Titans may play into that as well. So there are a number of different factors someone can point to as to why this is an issue.
I don't think this is necessarily a Cincinnati issue. I think this is an NFL issue. When you have such an awesome product in the Sunday ticket package, that is, as it is, it's already an expensive package to purchase, right? And then, you can watch other games immediately after the Bengals game, or even if you want to flip during commercials and check out what's happening in some of the other games. Fantasy football plays into this. With the amount of money that's thrown around in fantasy football leagues these days, people want to see what's happening with their players. And so it's a combination of factors. The home viewing, ability to see these games. It's the high definition looks great. I know it doesn't replace the actual atmosphere at Paul Brown Stadium. I get that, but for somebody like me who's not exactly a small guy, I'm 6'3", 280. Those seats aren't comfortable for me. They cram you in there. And so
Come on.
I'm just saying. I'm just telling you my experience, Mickey.
You're staying the whole time, Nick. You're fired up. You're excited, Nick. If you were in Cincinnati, you and I would be at every game.
Yeah, and okay, that's another factor. If I lived in Cincinnati, that changes things, but I don't. So for me to drive 3 hours to watch a game, that's another $100 just in gas to get down there, plus the the tickets that you got to buy. It's not cheap.
Sure, no one's faulting you, Nick, and I'm not faulting anyone. And it is a great, I tell people all the time, if you want the experience, go to the game. If you want to see every play, watch it on TV. But like I said, every time I go, I'm happy I go. But your Sundays, and I live close, and your Sunday's done. You know what I mean? Like you're sitting in traffic, you gotta go early. But like. I understand everyone's excuse. You can't take your kids, like John from Kentucky said, because, man, Bengals fans are dumb. And I'm sure they're dumb everywhere, but there's enough of the drunken morons that makes it not worth, subjecting your kids to. But, man, the experience is fun. And I see both sides. Like there used to be a time where every Sunday my bus was there at 8 o'clock in the morning. I didn't miss a game. We went nuts. I got home at 8 o'clock. Like it was just I was, Monday at work was my day to recover. But yeah, I don't know. Like I there's enough of those people still in the city, Nick, that the struggle to sell tickets is still baffling to me. And like Anthony said, the playoff game was embarrassing. And I will give people more that, they jacked the prices up for the playoff game. That's an NFL thing. And people did, and I was one of them. People got sour on that Jets game where, we went to the Meadowlands, got 11 yards of offense for the game or something like that, and then, we used the excuse now we were just resting everyone, and then got our butts handed to us here. People were salty about that, and I understand that being, the theme. So playoffs is a different argument, but during the season, I don't understand it, and there's no way to describe it.
Yeah, look, it's I'm never going to question fans who say they can't afford it, because it's not cheap, and you can't deny that. It's certainly not cheap, and for somebody like me who shells out a lot of money just to be able to watch it on Sunday Ticket, here where I live in Northwest Ohio, fortunately I'm outside of the blackout area, so it doesn't affect me so much. But I can understand the Bengals want to sell tickets, but at the same time, I am never going to question a fan who says the prices for tickets and the game day experience are too high. And it's not just tickets, it's food, it's parking, and all the other things that go into it. So it's disappointing, and yes, I guess in a sense it's embarrassing as a Bengals fan that we can't sell out games for a team that's made the postseason 3 years in a row and is 2-0 and on the cusp of being one of the best teams in the AFC and possibly the NFL this year. So I get it, but I certainly won't question it. And but I'd love your feedback though, Bengals fans, on this subject. Feel free to email me insidethejungle@spnt.tv. Let's look ahead though to this weekend's game against the Tennessee Titans. Anthony, from a Titans perspective, they went out week 1 and really dominated Alex Smith and the Chiefs, and then laid an egg in week 2 against Tony Romo and the Cowboys, which is very shocking because the Cowboys are awful. From the Titans' perspective, who should the Bengals be concerned with?
Well, this has kind of been the story of the Titans over the last few years. They look great one week, terrible the next. They also, Jake Locker's been injured, so they haven't really got a good read on what his actual NFL ceiling is. If you're asking me what players to watch, Jake Locker is a guy you got to keep an eye on because he is a mobile guy. He does have a tendency to run the football and put his head down and go for extra yards. And there are instances in the past where the Bengals defense have struggled a little bit with a more mobile quarterback. So that's one guy to watch. They do have kind of a running back by committee. I believe they have Sean Green as kind of their thumper, and then they have a rookie, Bishop Sankey. So those are a couple guys they're going to need to bottle up as well. They have a couple of good wide receivers. They have Kendall Wright. They have Nate Washington, who's a longtime veteran in this league, and then they have a guy that a lot of people are high on, Justin Hunter. There's not really the explosive, all-world type of player that they have. They have a lot of decent to good pieces, and it all depends on if that team seems to get it together that particular week. And if they get it together that particular week, they're a tough team to beat. If they don't, they're a very easy team to beat. So they're very Jekyll and Hyde, and it's just a matter of which team shows up this week in Cincinnati.
Mickey, when you look at the Titans, what stands out and what concerns you?
Remember Stormy, Nick? She concerned me, but she's no longer a cheerleader for the Titans. Do you remember that? She was she was the one that yelled at me for blowing her up. Locker does. There's a guy that I didn't think was going to do much, and is quietly, kind of becoming a leader on that team. Nothing really scares me after seeing the Bengals' first 2 games, but this could be a letdown game, maybe. I don't see it happening. I think that there's one cool thing about the Bengals playing at home is there's this pride thing now that they want that home field advantage, and they want the national media to keep talking about that, and so they're going to play extra tough at home. It just feels like so. I think this is going to be a game they easily handle, but I think Locker is a wild card, and I think at times he plays pretty well, and if we can't disrupt that, it could be interesting.
Okay, so let's look at it from this perspective, guys. The Bengals just shut down Matt Ryan, Roddy White, Julio Jones, and Devin Hester. And now Jake Locker and a bunch of, I'll say it, no-name wide receivers come to town. There's no excuse for this secondary to be able to do the same thing, Anthony.
There's not an excuse, but again, we talked about it, and a lot of the callers who called in have mentioned it. There are a lot of injuries going on in this on this team right now, and if they end up resting basically their top offensive player in A.J. Green and one of, if not the top defensive player in Vontaze Burfict, that hurts you. And they've already lost a good guard for a little while in Kevin Zeitler. There's a plethora of other injuries, and that can come back to haunt you, especially if you're coming off of two pretty big wins, and if you are happening to kind of overlook the Titans a little bit and onto the bye week getting healthy and onto the game after that against the Patriots, this is a dangerous game. I think on paper everything points to the Bengals winning this game and winning it potentially big, but it depends on who's healthy and who's not, who's activated, who's not, and like I said, which Tennessee Titans team shows up this particular week.
All right, Mickey. So the Bengals win
if the game is played.
All right then.
I don't think this isn't any given Sunday league, but man, the Bengals are good. They showed what they can do against a good Baltimore Ravens team. They shut down an incredible offense against the Falcons. I don't see this happening. Nick, I don't remember when I said it, but it was blasphemous at the time that I said, everyone talks about what the Bengals have lost, but with Zimmer leaving, but I said, what if, they actually took a step forward? And I did say it. I mean, I don't know if you have the clip, but so far this season, it looks like with those blitzes, they have even, Zimmer stocked the cupboard. Paulie G's just taking it that next step, and I think that's going to be rough on the Titans, man. And I think this is a cruise control type game.
Go ahead, AC. The Bengals win if
Mike Nugent could kick a field goal. If they don't leave points out on the field, they keep the same offensive game plan and defensive game plan that they've had in these first two wins, and they don't leave points on the board against a team that is definitely a lesser opponent. But if they end up missing field goals, maybe doing the same thing they did in week one where they take a field goal instead of a touchdown and they let a lesser team hang around, that spells a little bit of a recipe for disaster. But I do think that this is definitely a game the Bengals should win, even with the amount of injuries that they have. We saw them beat a good Falcons team with a lot of those guys on the bench. So, it's just about not eliminating mistakes. So that's what I think.
I guess if I'll take the easy way out with this one. The Bengals win if they're plus in the turnover differential yet again. And Andy Dalton, let's knock on wood, has started the year no sacks and no interceptions. Anthony, the last team to do that was
the San Diego Chargers a few years back when they went 14-2.
So hopefully that's a nice little omen for this Cincinnati Bengals squad. So I'll take the easy route and say they'll win if they're positive in the turnover differential, which let's face it, that's historically the case in the Marvin Lewis regime. I'm looking back at last week's bold predictions, Mickey, and I guess I should probably, it helps if you're going to be a good host, you should play the audio that goes along with it.
Ladies, quit your babbling, because now's the time in the show when all the boys pull out their cojones and make bold predictions.
You weren't too far off, Mickey. Your bold prediction was 6 sacks and 3 turnovers. And the Bengals did get the 3 turnovers of Matt Ryan, so well done. And I don't know how many sacks they ended up having on the day, but
4, right?
Yeah, you weren't too far off. Nice job.
Yeah, we both had solid bold predictions, Nick.
That's right, we did.
For this week, my bold prediction is that Brandon Tate leads all wide receivers in reception yards.
That is bold. That is
kind of, but But I can tell you one of my memories from the sidelines, and without knowing the stats, he was targeted a lot. He was a big part of that offense, and I know he didn't have as many catches as he was thrown to, but they liked him, and I was impressed. And it's funny, every time I saw 19, I was like, man, Superling, you guys are always going to be paired together from now on.
Oh, you should hear the post-game show. I'm constantly eating crow the last 2 weeks, and that's fine. I'll own it. He's
good. It's good crow to eat, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, let's just think about it though. Hugh Jackson is putting him in positions to succeed in this offense. It's not like he's doing he's not going to be AJ Green, but they're giving him a chance, which is all you can ask for, I guess, from your offensive coordinator. Scott's bold prediction this week is that Mike Nugent doesn't miss a field goal. AC.
Let's hope. Let's hope. I will go with. I'll kind of spin Mickey's a little bit. I'll say Sonsenbacher is a leading receiver of the week, and I think he has a touchdown or two. I'll say one to be conservative, but I think Sonsenbacher has a pretty big day. That was another guy they targeted after Green went out. They threw one over. Dalton threw one over his head at one point in the end zone, and he did have a couple of catches late that he extended into a couple big plays. So I think Sonsenbacher has a big day.
I'm looking at some of these bold predictions here in the chat room, and Fatal's toned it down a little bit. This week he's only saying Gresham gets 83 yards and a touchdown. Pale in the chat room says he'll top that, and that Gresham gets 100 yards and a touchdown. Let's see here. Nick in the chat room says Nugent hits all his kicks, so he's thinking along the same lines as Scott. Mike Woodstock in the chat room says his bold prediction is that he won't be able to drive home. That's that hopefully means he's having a great time at Paul Brown Stadium. Chase says Hill rushes for 110 and a touchdown. Ronnie in the chat room says Green gets 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. That would be bold, considering he may not play, but Marvin Lewis has kind of indicated this week that he thinks he could play. And so 200 yards and 2 touchdowns from A.J. Green would be fantastic. That would be awesome. If I have to give a bold prediction, I said the Bengals would be able to hold the Falcons to 10 points or less last week, guys. You ready for this? Shutout. They pitch a clean sheet against the Tennessee Titans this week, and they hold them to 0 points.
Wow.
That's my bold prediction. You like that? I can tell from your reaction.
Yeah, that's pretty gnarly.
We got a few more, Nick, Brett. Pac-Man punt return for a touchdown. Ronnie Webb, Lemur, 3 sacks and a pick for a touchdown. Samuel Turner, Hill, and Gio, 100 yards rushing each, touchdown each. Insane. Dalton might not have to throw a pass.
Just turn it around. Yeah, I would love to see that, to continue to get better in that run game. Let's hope that the injury to Zeitler doesn't limit them, but even when he went out, guys, the offensive line really they got it together, and they were able to really manhandle that defensive front. And let's give some credit to Bodine at center. There were a lot of question marks about whether or not he'd be able to handle the responsibility as being center, a first-time player in the NFL, but no sacks, and they were able to run the ball at will. I'll take that from a rookie center.
Yeah, and he seems to just be a whipping boy. I mean, there are a lot of people that closely review the tape, or at least so they say, and they still see some bad things from him. I was impressed with him, especially last week. He was calling out protection calls. You had 170 or 165 rushing yards from your 2 running backs. I mean, I noticed I actually rewatched the tape a little bit. On the Hill touchdown run, he had an absolute pancake block on his man that took a guy completely out of the play. So, there are still some things that he needs to clean up, no doubt. But, I think people need to ease up on this kid a little bit.
Just looking at some of these other bold predictions, TC from Dub V says Hill runs for 150 yards, 150 plus, and 2 touchdowns. Chris Setter says Hill for 2 touchdowns this week, and they'll finally pound the rock in the red zone. You'd like to think that they'll be able to get that cleaned up in the red zone for whatever reason. They're still struggling in that area, but again, when you don't have your top targets like A.J. Green, Tyler Eifert, and Marvin Jones in the red zone, you are limited a little bit, but I'd like to see Jermaine Gresham step up in the red zone this week, and hopefully some of these guys who've called out Gresham on these bold predictions will get their wish, and he has a big day. I'd love to hear your bold predictions for Sunday, though. Make sure you send them to me on Twitter at Nick Suberling with the hashtag bold prediction, and I'll do my best to retweet those and get those out. Scott is predicting a 34-13 win for the Bengals this week, and of course we missed you this week, Scott. Hopefully we'll catch up with you again next week. He's on single-parent duty tonight, so hopefully we'll be able to speak with him later, hopefully next week. Give us a score prediction for Sunday, Anthony Cosenza.
This one's tough because you don't know who's playing and who's not as of yet. And I think that does affect the score. I will say it's going to be a little closer than people think. I'll take, I guess I'll take 27-17 Bengals.
Mickey, you're shaking your head. What do you got?
I thought he was going to steal mine. I'm going 27-13.
I got you both beat. I'm going 28-zip Bengals.
There you go.
There it is.
28-zip. The way this defense is playing right now, guys, to hold Atlanta to 10 points, considering what they did the week before against New Orleans and Rob Ryan's defense, and the Saints' defense isn't that bad, although they did lose to the Browns, so maybe it is. I don't know. But I still think 28-0, the Bengals hold the Tennessee Titans to 0 points, and they make Jake Locker look pedestrian here at Paul Brown Stadium. One of my favorite segments as we get ready to wrap up episode 163. We do this each and every week.
Shout-outs!
Let's give some shout-outs this week. AC, we missed you last week. Give us a shout-out for this week.
I've got a few, so bear with. I hope I'm not stealing one from you guys, but got to give one to a gentleman named Josh Shuster at FlyGuyJosh91. He asked for one on Twitter and paid us a pretty good compliment that he tunes in from Jersey every week to the show. So that's one. I also have Sean Snuff McMahon at Wolf Kaosaun. Good follower there. And then I also want to shout out Scott Hansen from the NFL Network, who retweeted me today and answered something. I answered a question of his, and he retweeted it. So those are my three.
Awesome. I saw that today. So you won. I don't know if it was a contest, but you were first.
It wasn't really I didn't win anything. I guess he just said, "Great, you answered first correctly." So.
Well done. How about you, Mickey? Give us a shout out for this week.
I got a triple. I'm going Derek McAway, who's a guy I've been talking to on Twitter, at Derek J. McAway. The Bengal Thing, Nick, you know who that is. I don't know that I've ever shouted him out, but he's given me a bunch of love over the years. And the last shout out is I don't even know dude's real name, but Papa John, the owner of Papa John's. He was actually in Cincinnati at the game, and in my halftime run, I saw him in his suite, and I just couldn't think of anything but Papa John pizza. So it was pretty cool seeing that guy.
Of all the things you saw on the sideline, you saw Papa John.
He was up in
cool.
the suites.
Did you go up to him and say, better ingredients, better pizza?
Yeah, actually, I triple taked. I was like, man, I know that guy from somewhere, and I just couldn't place it. And then I was like, oh, there it is. And I didn't get to talk to him, but it was cool. I don't know why he was in Cincinnati for an Atlanta game, but he was there.
Awesome. That's a cool shout out. Papa John guy. I don't know his name either. It's probably on the commercial. We just never read it.
Yeah.
It's John something Italian, I think. And I can say that because I have an Italian name. I can say that.
John something Italian is that's what I'm going to call him. Every time I see him on TV with Peyton Manning, I'm going to say, hey, there's John something Italian. I like that. That's fantastic. I'm going to give a shout out. I'm going to cop out again. I'm giving a shout out to everybody who's tuned in live tonight here at CincyJungle.com. Way too many names to mention. You guys are all fantastic. I'm going to give a shout out to the Rolson family again. We hope that Larry and Lenny. We hope Larry's doing better out there. I know he's still recovering, and we hope to someday hear from him again here on the Jungle Line soon. But the Rolston family, you guys are fantastic. Lenny left another awesome review on our iTunes page. So if you have a moment and you want to review the show, check us out on iTunes. Just do a keyword search, Inside the Jungle on iTunes. Final thoughts as we wrap up tonight, Anthony Cosenza.
Obviously, I hope the Bengals can find a way to scratch together a win with all these injuries. Just kind of a little side note, a lot of the Hall of Fame quote-unquote finalists were announced. I think Willie Anderson was amongst those names, and there are a couple of other Bengal guys out there, Kenny Anderson that's been out there forever, maybe even Boomer Esiason that are out there. I hope that some of these good players that were in Bengals history somehow find a way to get into the Hall of Fame. It's probably very doubtful, but I hope they find a way to get in the Hall of Fame because at least a couple of those guys deserve it.
Amen to that, AC. Final thoughts, Mickey?
I mean, I gotta piggyback AC. Like Ken Riley not being in there, just man, that's a punch to the gut to every corner ever. But final thought. I will say, even though I'm a little frustrated with the zero backbone, I want to say thanks to Kent for getting me on the field. On Sunday, that was cool.
Awesome. And if you want to read the text of Mickey's article today, and you're listening, you can always email me insidethejungle@spnt.tv, and we will get the text of his article emailed to you. Final thoughts as I wrap up. Again, thank you to everybody who's downloaded the show, left iTunes reviews, calls into the post-game show. You're all super awesome. And again, if I could give you all a chest bump or a high five, I certainly would do that. And again, I can't thank everybody enough for their support on our Patreon campaign. If you like what we do here each and every week here on on Inside the Jungle at cincyjungle.com, we really appreciate the support. spnt.tv/Patreon is a link if you want to support financially to the show. Anything that you can give or can contribute on a monthly basis will go a long way in helping us out. And again, I can't thank you all enough for your support. You're all fantastic, and it's awesome. It's awesome. This show is awesome. To see how many people were here watching live tonight who tuned into the post-game show, it's pretty remarkable. So I can't thank you all enough. Don't forget to join me Sunday after the game, immediately following the game here for Inside the Jungle postgame. We're the only live call-in show immediately following the Bengals game. So if you want to have your voice heard and get your thoughts in on what happened against the Titans, join me immediately following the game right here at cincyjungle.com. Episode 163. We're going to put it's in the can now. We're wrapping things up here. My thanks to Anthony Cosenza and Mickey Mensa for joining me this week. We missed you this week, Scott. Hopefully we hear from you next week, though. Inside the Jungle, I got to give my thanks again to my associate producers, Andy Lanham, Larry Rolson, Mike Barty, and Chris Setter. Inside the Jungle is an SPNT production. For more information about other podcasts, log on to spnt.tv. And for all your Bengals updates and more, check out cincyjungle.com. We'll see you all Sunday for a Bengals win, hopefully. Hooray!
Hooray!
All right. Unfortunately, I got to run. I got to go pack my lunch and then head off to work. I know I'm a party pooper. What can I say?
I figured that was going to be the case given the time.
It's that's the way it is. That's the way it goes. Mickey, man, kudos on the sideline. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was good, cool. And I did post a link in the chat room. Yahoo still has it up.
Nice. So there, check it out. Oh man, Pale wants a beer. Okay, I'll work on that. And hopefully I get my computer back next week. For whatever reason, Amazon decided not to overnight my processor, Mickey, so that was awesome. Soon.
Don't bend.
Oh, I'm not putting it in. The guy who has my computer is going to be putting it in.
All right. When you told me that, I was like, ugh.
No way. Yeah, that was fun. All right, yeah. Gents. Make sure you join us Sunday. AC, it was good seeing you again.
Yeah. Good seeing you guys.
Nick,
we'll talk next week, everybody.
Sunday, text me right before you go on.
Okay, I will.
Cool.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next. We'll see you Sunday. Go Bengals.
All right. See ya.
Hooray!